For over a century, humanity had played its role well. Diplomats, mediators, the calm center in the chaos of a fracturing galaxy. Where other species barked threats and rattled sabers, humans offered open hands and steady voices. They had earned the title, the Peacekeepers of the Concord, a name spoken with admiration by most, and quiet contempt by a few warlike empires who mistook gentleness for weakness. Ambassador Kyle Virek was the perfect symbol of that role. Tall, reserved, with eyes that never betrayed emotion, he had negotiated 27 ceasefires, resolved 5 planetary disputes, and was once credited with ending the Hydrix Rebellion using only his words. To the Galactic Concord, Kale was the gold standard of diplomacy. But beneath the surface of his carefully measured tone and soft-spoken wisdom, something else stirred, something most species had forgotten about humans. Kale now stood aboard, the neutral Concord vessel Tranquility, overlooking the twin empires of Varnath and Drexus as they prepared for yet another volatile summit. These two species were infamous for their blood feuds, and now, one skirmish away from dragging half the quadrant into war. The Concord had dispatched its best KL to intervene. The conference room was a masterstroke of neutrality, transparent alloy walls showing the endless stars, a central table with no head position, and AI-controlled temperature to suit both Varnathi heat and Drexus chill. Kale entered last, as was customary for mediators, and gave his signature diplomatic bow. Warlord Zykar of the Varnathi sneered, flexing his scaled arms. "Peacekeeper," he spat, the word a challenge. Kale met his gaze, not with anger, but with an unreadable calm. "Warlord, let us begin." Throughout the proceedings, Kale remained poised, never raising his voice, always deflecting aggression with logic and subtle guilt. When the Drexy's ambassador accused the Varnathi of violating border treaties, Kale simply opened archival footage proving otherwise. When Zykar demanded reparations for a decades-old battle, Kale presented a compromise proposal within minutes. His mind worked like a weapon, though no one saw it that way. Not yet. But behind Zykar's scorn and the Drexus envoy's smugness, there was a growing discomfort. Every word Kale spoke felt precise, calculated. He never blinked too long, never raised his voice, never showed anger, fear, or even fatigue. It unsettled them. After the talks adjourned, Zykar conferred with his advisors. "The human is too still," he muttered, "not like the others." His war priest leaned close. "He reminds me of the river snakes from Sorkesh Prime. Calm on the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike." They laughed it off. Humans were diplomats, not killers. But the seed of doubt had been planted. Meanwhile, Kale returned to his private quarters and locked the door. The moment he was alone, the smile dropped from his face. He pulled up a secure channel, one hidden from Concord oversight, and keyed. In an encrypted code, a female voice responded, "Umbra command listening." Kale's tone shifted, ice replacing warmth. "Begin protocol shade level 6. They struck a medical convoy last night. No survivors. Let's make sure they understand the cost. No rage, no theatrics, just cold command." He ended the call and stared out into the stars. The mask of the peacekeeper still rested on his face, but behind it, the predator watched and waited. The Galactic Concord had always prided itself on order and diplomacy, but the fragile balance between the Varnathi and Drexus was about to shatter. After weeks of tense negotiations under Ambassador Kale Virek's careful mediation, the galaxy was holding its breath. Everyone expected reason to prevail, but no one was ready for what happened next. The peace talks had entered a delicate phase. Both empires had agreed, at least on paper, to a temporary ceasefire while final terms were debated. Kale had been relentless in pushing for concessions, knowing full well that even a single spark could ignite the powder keg. Yet humanity's patience remained steadfast, their image as mediators intact, at least outwardly. Then came the atrocity. Late in the night, a Drexus warship, reportedly under rogue command, shelled a neutral medical outpost situated on a EI small moon, where human aid workers had been providing relief to war refugees. The bombardment was sudden, brutal, and indiscriminate. Thousands perished instantly. Entire wards of the hospital were reduced to rubble. The news spread like wildfire through the Concord's communication networks. The galaxy was horrified. The Concord Council convened an emergency session. The Drex's leadership vehemently denied involvement, blaming a rebel faction. The Varnathi immediately accused the Drexes of sabotage. And humanity, caught in the eye of the storm, issued a formal statement expressing grief and condemning the attack. Ambassador Kyle Virek's public address was measured and calm, his voice heavy with sorrow. We mourn the lives lost and stand firmly for peace. Let this tragedy not undo the progress made. We urge restraint and reason in these dark hours. To the outside world, humanity remained the embodiment of peace. But behind closed doors, a different story unfolded. Within hours of the attack, Kyle activated a secret protocol known only to a select few within the highest echelons of human command, a covert operation codenamed Project Umbra. This task force had been quietly developed over decades, composed of elite operatives trained in espionage, sabotage, and surgical warfare. Their existence was denied by all official channels. Kyle's encrypted communication with Umbra was terse and direct. The peace we cultivated has been shattered. They believe silence is weakness. Initiate Phase 1. Show them the cost of underestimating humanity. Meanwhile, Drex's commanders dismissed the human silence as weakness or confusion. Their arrogance swelled, convinced the humans were too passive to retaliate. They underestimated the depth of human resolve, how much suffering could be endured before patience ran out. Across the galaxy, intelligence reports began to pick up strange signals. Low-level disruptions near Drex's supply lines, unexplained, system malfunctions and sudden blackouts in strategic facilities. No official source claimed responsibility. The Concord scrambled to identify the culprits but came up empty. Inside the Varnathi war chambers, whispers began circulating. Humans are not what they seem, a Varnathi general murmured. They do not respond like other species. They wait. They watch. And when they strike, it is like the silent jaws of the Death World predators. Kyle's dual role was becoming clearer, but the galaxy still believed humanity's outer mask. Calm, reasoned peacekeepers. In reality, the lines were being drawn for a new kind of war, a war fought in shadows, in silence, where humans no longer spoke of peace but of retribution. The galaxy had only just begun to see the dark side of humanity, and it terrified even their closest allies. The galaxy had long believed humans were pacifists, diplomats, the peacemakers in an otherwise chaotic and violent cosmos. But appearances, as always, were deceiving. After the attack on the neutral medical outpost and the silent, restrained response from humanity, the Concord's member species grew increasingly uneasy. Strange incidents began cropping up. Small, precise, and puzzling. No explosions, no warnings, no declarations. Just vanishing ships, sabotaged factories, and disrupted communications. These events were neither brutal invasions nor grand battles. Instead, they carried the eerie signature of a predator stalking its prey in the shadows. It began subtly. The Drex's High Commander's personal shuttle disappeared during a routine transfer between star systems. There was no distress signal, no wreckage found, only an abrupt, unexplained absence. Concord investigators scoured the surrounding space, but their efforts yielded nothing. Official statements blamed technical failure, but whispers of foul play grew louder. Next, Varnathi industrial centers specializing in weapons and warship components suffered mysterious fires and malfunctions. Factories went dark without any known cause. The economic and military setbacks were significant, but no one could trace the source. The precision of the sabotage suggested expert knowledge and surgical planning. Most chilling of all were the cryptic broadcasts suddenly hijacking public communication channels across the galaxy. Screens flickered, then displayed a cold, simple message in multiple languages. We tried peace. No explanations, no demands, Just those 3 words, repeated over and over. The broadcasts lasted only seconds before disappearing as suddenly as they had come, leaving behind only confusion and fear. Concord officials convened emergency meetings. "This isn't random," one elder diplomat said. "It's a coordinated psychological campaign. Someone wants us to be afraid." Suspicions pointed to humanity, but without proof, accusations were politically dangerous. The human delegation denied involvement, maintaining their facade of peace and reason. But inside the human leadership, the truth was stark and unapologetic. Ambassador Kyle Vierek and the Project Umbra operatives had shifted from defense to offense, waging a silent war against those who had attacked their people and shattered trust. The long game was in motion, subtle, relentless, and devastating. Their tactics were inspired by Earth's apex predators, wolves that hunt in packs, lions that strike with perfect timing, and especially the quiet patience of big cats who wait for hours without a sound, stalking prey until the right moment. The galaxy was witnessing the same hunting instinct in humans. They did not roar. They did not charge headlong into battle. They waited. They planned. They struck only when the outcome was certain, leaving their enemies baffled and vulnerable. Alien analysts began to adjust their perceptions. The humans' calm diplomacy was not weakness, but a mask. Beneath that mask were lethal instincts honed over millennia on harsh death worlds. Patience, cunning, and cold precision were their true weapons. At a secret meeting deep within the Varnathi capital, a military strategist warned his peers, "They are not the diplomats we once thought. They are predators who do not reveal their claws until it's too late. We must prepare or be destroyed." Meanwhile, Kyle watched from the shadows, his expression unreadable. The galaxy was finally beginning to see the truth. That humans did not need to roar to be deadly. They were patient killers, and the hunt had only just begun. The galaxy was waking up to a terrifying new reality. Humanity was no longer hiding behind its mask of diplomacy and peacekeeping. The true nature of humans, as silent, patient, and ruthless predators, was becoming impossible to ignore. Reports began pouring in from the farthest reaches of conquered space. Entire Drex's fleets, once considered invincible, had simply vanished, without warning. No distress signals, no battle debris, no survivors. It was as if entire armadas had been swallowed by the void itself. Investigators scrambled to uncover what had happened. Recon drones scoured the last known coordinates, returning only fragments of hull plating shredded with surgical precision. The patterns of destruction baffled even the most seasoned engineers. There were no conventional weapons involved. No massive explosions, just clean, methodical annihilation. The attacks were too precise to be accidents. It was clear these were deliberate strikes, designed to cripple the Drexes without warning or opportunity to respond. The galaxy began to whisper of a predator with surgical claws, one that struck silently and without mercy. Meanwhile, similar reports emerged from the Varnathi systems. Supply lines were cut, mining operations sabotaged, and communication arrays disabled. The message was unmistakable. Humanity was dismantling the enemies who had once underestimated them piece by piece. In the corridors of power within the galactic Concord, panic spread. The peaceful image of humanity was shattered, replaced by a grim understanding that a new era of warfare had begun, one where humans were the hunters and the rest of the galaxy the prey. Interrogations of captured operatives, cryptic intelligence, leaks and intercepted transmissions pointed toward the involvement of Project Umbra, the secret human task force operating in the shadows. No one knew its full reach or capabilities, but its effects were devastating. The turning point came when an encrypted message was intercepted from a human fleet deep in Drex's territory. The message was brief and chilling. "Peace was our choice. You took that from us." It was not a threat, but a statement of cold fact. Across the galaxy, alliances began to shift. Some species sought to distance themselves from the conflict, fearful of attracting humanity's attention. Others began desperate talks of forming coalitions to counter the growing human threat. Yet humanity remained calm. Their fleets were nowhere, to be seen in public space. Cities on Earth and human colonies went dark, as if preparing for a longer campaign. In this silence, the Predator waited. Alien analysts pored over the data, struggling to understand how humans had evolved such an effective strategy. The key was their patience, not a rash, bloodthirsty fury, but a slow, deliberate dismantling of their enemy's strength before striking decisively. At a secret Varnathi council meeting, a high-ranking general warned, "This is not war as we know it. These are predators who hunt with cold calculation. To survive, we must adapt, or be consumed." Meanwhile, Ambassador Kale Virek, back aboard the Tranquility, watched the stars with an expression of quiet resolve. The mask of the Peacekeeper had slipped, revealing the predator beneath. And the hunt was only beginning. The galaxy faced a stark choice: prepare for humanity's relentless advance, or be devoured by the patient killers they had so long underestimated. The galaxy trembled under a new threat. Humanity, once seen as peacekeepers, had unveiled their true nature as patient, relentless predators. The shift was seismic. Alliances fractured, mistrust spread, and fear took hold. The question no one dared ask aloud was, how do you fight an enemy who never reveals itself until the kill is certain? After months of covert strikes and crippling sabotage, the time had come for humanity to step into the light. Ambassador Kale Virek no longer hid behind the veneer of diplomacy. The Project Umbra operatives, trained for years in stealth and precision, prepared to execute the next phase: direct, unstoppable confrontation. It began with the sudden disappearance of the Drexis War Council flagship, the Kareth. In a meticulously planned ambush, human forces disabled its shields without firing a single visible shot. The ship was boarded silently, and by the time the galaxy's sensors registered a power loss, the Kareth was crippled beyond repair. No lives were wasted unnecessarily. The human invaders took prisoners, leaving a clear message: mercy could be granted, but only on their terms. The message was broadcast across multiple systems. We warned you. We did not want this war, but you forced our hand. Across Varnathi space, similar strikes unfolded. Strategic command centers, supply depots, and key military installations were seized or destroyed in lightning-fast raids. The precision was brutal. No collateral damage, no civilian casualties. Every attack was a calculated blow, a message, carved into the bones of their enemies. But this war was not just about destruction, it was psychological. Humans deployed misinformation campaigns, sowing confusion and distrust among the enemy ranks. They used alien captives to spread rumors of betrayals and impending doom. Entire fleets hesitated, unsure whether they were walking into traps or being baited into false retreats. In the midst of this, Ambassador Kale remained a cold, unyielding figure. His calm demeanor unnerved even his own commanders. When questioned about his seemingly ruthless approach, he said simply, "Peace was our choice. You left us no alternative. We are hunters now, not because we want to be, but because we must be." Across the galaxy, species that had once dismissed humanity as naive began scrambling to adjust their tactics. The Drexis and Varnathi formed uneasy coalitions, pooling intelligence and resources to counter the human offensive. Yet every plan was anticipated, every movement countered. The turning point came when human forces launched a decisive assault on the Drexis capital world, an act that would have been unthinkable months earlier. The attack was swift and surgical, crippling command infrastructure and forcing the Drexis to retreat. It was a clear demonstration. Humanity had shed its peacekeeper identity and embraced its true role as predator. In the shadow of these events, whispers began among the Concord's leadership. Some called for immediate peace talks, fearing total annihilation. Others advocated all-out war to crush humanity before it could grow stronger. But Ambassador Kale knew the truth. Humanity's strength was in its patience and precision, not brute force. The war had entered a new phase, one where only the most adaptable and cunning would survive. As human fleets regrouped in the shadows of conquered systems, Kale's voice echoed in secret channels. This is only the beginning. The galaxy will learn that we are not peacekeepers. We are patient killers, and we will endure long after others fall. The galaxy stood on the precipice of irreversible change. Humanity, once underestimated and labeled the Peacekeepers, had revealed themselves as something far more terrifying: patient, methodical predators. The final act of this dark transformation was upon them, and the universe braced for the reckoning. After months of precision strikes, sabotage, and psychological warfare, human forces consolidated their gains. The Drexys and Varnathi, reeling from the relentless campaign, scrambled to mount a coordinated defense. But it was too late. The damage was deep, and the fear seeded into every corner of the galaxy had fractured old alliances and trust. The turning point came on the shattered plains of Varnathi Prime. In a decisive battle, the combined fleets of the conquered met the human armada in open space, something the humans had long avoided. The engagement was brutal, but unlike the sprawling, chaotic wars of the past, this fight was surgical and calculated. Human commanders focused on crippling enemy command ships and disabling support vessels, systematically dismantling the fleet's ability to coordinate. Their weapon systems were designed to disable, not just destroy, leaving enemy ships drifting in powerless silence. Each move was deliberate, designed to break will as much as physical strength. Amid the chaos, Ambassador Kale Virek directed the battle from the Bridge of the Tranquility, calm as ever. His voice was steady as he issued commands that turned the tide. Cut their wings before they can fly. Precision over fury. The aftermath was devastating. The Concord fleets suffered their worst defeat in centuries. The galaxy was forced to confront the brutal truth. Humanity was no longer a force to be negotiated with, but a predator at the apex of the cosmic food chain. But the reckoning was not just military. In the political halls of the conquered, fear turned to desperation. Some species advocated surrender or uneasy peace treaties to avoid total annihilation. Others pushed for ruthless counterattacks, risking all-out war. Yet Kale's message was clear. This was a new era. The old rules no longer applied. In secret, humanity offered terms, not demands, but a stark ultimatum. They would cease their campaign if the conquered acknowledged humans as sovereign, unmatched in their resolve and strength, and respected their right to protect their interests by any means necessary. The galaxy was forced to reckon with a harsh reality. Peace was a privilege humanity would no longer grant freely. They had tasted the power of patience, precision, and unyielding will. They had been pushed too far to return to the old ways. As Kale stood before the Concord Assembly in a historic address, his words resonated across star systems. We did not seek war, but we will not be fooled by it. We are not the peacekeepers you hoped for. We are the predators you never saw coming. This is the day the galaxy learned who humanity truly is. The conquered was left with a choice: adapt to this new reality or be consumed by it. In the silent void of space, the humans prepared for whatever came next. Ready, patient, and deadly. The galaxy would never again see them as gentle diplomats. From this day forward, humanity was the predator ruling the stars, and the reckoning had only just begun.